world today seems to run on wheels. Our way of life depends on it. But the more time we spend on the road, the greater the chance of becoming involved in an accident, which is why it is more important than ever to drive safely. And that's especially true for the professional driver, people like me. I drive for a living, been doing it most of my life. One thing I've learned is that safety is an important part of this job. Accidents can happen for a variety of reasons. Not knowing the equipment, poor judgment, lack of discipline. But most of the time, it's just a lousy attitude. I should know, because I'm the guy that picks up the pieces. Millions of people drive for a living, but just because you make your living on the road doesn't make you a professional. It all depends on your attitude. You see, good driving skills are only part of the job. It takes judgment, discipline, and overall safety awareness. Regardless of the size vehicle you drive, the same principles apply. A professional has to be alert, wary, patient, and considerate. If you haven't developed these attitudes, you're just an accident waiting to happen. Safe driving begins before you ever get on the road. A true professional with the right attitude always knows the condition of his truck and makes sure that it's running good. No matter what type of truck you drive, a pre-trip inspection is the first step to driving safely. If you have a professional attitude, a pre-trip is something you want to do, not something you have to do.
Yeah, right. I've heard it all before. Attitude, responsibility, all that defensive driving stuff. I got the message. They want me to do a pre-trip inspection, I'll do a pre-trip inspection. Windshield wipers check. Mirrors clean. Lights. Headlights check. You're checking everything every time you take her out, it's not needed. This business time's money. Why take the time? Cupping device is fine. See what I mean? Tires, no problem. Brake light's okay. See, local haulers like me don't have to do a pre-trip inspection every single time. Exhaust system, like I figured, okay. And the wet tank's probably bone dry. Holy mackerel. Hey, George, all water in this system is dangerous. Don't you guys check this thing? Good thing I did my own pre-trip.
A true professional never assumes things are okay. He always takes the time to know. After all, his life is at stake. It's important to get in the habit of checking the steering and the brakes as soon as you start to roll out of the lot. That way you won't have any unhappy surprises down the road. You'd think that people who drive for a living would make sure that their bodies and their vehicles were in top condition. But roadside inspections tell us otherwise.
As a commercial officer, I inspect commercial vehicles. These vehicles range everywhere from pickup trucks to the big rigs. You see numerous violations on these pieces of equipment, everything ranging from major air losses, brakes out of adjustment, frame and suspension problems, broken springs and frame rails, cracked wheels, defective tires. We write citations to these vehicles. Some citations cost a lot of money. Then the vehicle is placed out of service here on the spot, and the repairs have to be made prior to the vehicle going back on the road. We also inspect trucks that have already been involved in accidents to determine what the cause of that accident was. Unfortunately, that's a little too late for the driver. We find a lot of major equipment violations with those vehicles also. We're trying to stress that it is the driver's responsibility as well as the company's responsibility to safety check all vehicles prior to entering the road. And there's enough trouble on the road now to have to worry about defective equipment.
If you've seen as many accidents as I have, you start thinking of the highway as a combat zone. It kind of gets to you until you realize that your best defense is a professional attitude. A professional driver shouldn't be worried or nervous when he gets on the road, but he has to be aware of the dangers. 1 out of every 40 drivers on the road today is legally drunk. 1 out of every 4 drivers will probably be involved in an accident before the year is out. 1/3 of all the drivers on the road today are driving vehicles with bad brakes or bad tires. The best way to not become another statistic is to make safety your #1 priority. If you drive a van, it is especially important to stay alert and use your eyes. I don't mean just being able to see. You have to know what you're looking for, and that means thinking. Whenever you're behind the wheel, your mind had better be in gear.
I don't know about you, but I can walk and chew gum at the same time. And I know how to do this job, which means being extra careful and extra cautious all the time. So what's wrong with a little music?
Most accidents occur when you're most relaxed. If you aren't concentrating 100% on driving, then you aren't driving safely.
Okay, you made your point, and I agree with you. There's a lot of crazy drivers out there, and it's up to me to watch out for them. I was taught that anticipation is the key to defensive driving. I look ahead as far as I can for the fools who dart into traffic from side streets and driveways. Slow down early for traffic signals. And I always assume that a car will come rushing through the intersection just after the light changes. So I take my sweet time starting across.
The roads are for everyone, the good drivers and the bad. So the professional with the right attitude not only drives defensively, but is also patient and courteous. The pros look out for the other guy. The driver with the right attitude thinks of everyone on the road as part of a family of drivers.
Come on, sister, move it! You know, I like people as much as the next guy. But these amateurs, they really make it tough on us pros. Gotta just get them off the road and let us do our job.
And part of the job is driving safely, which means wearing your seatbelt. To drive safely, you have to be in control at all times. Seatbelts keep you behind the wheel and help you stay in control no matter what happens. If you put skid marks on the pavement, your right to call yourself a pro is doubtful. A safe driver never tailgates.
All right. Sometimes I get a little bent out of shape. I get a little anxious. But I'm a pro. I know what I'm doing.
Pros always check their mirrors once every 5 to 8 seconds.
Right.
And they always check the mirrors for proper adjustment. The pro driver anticipates braking at intersections by easing off on the accelerator.
See? I know what I'm doing, even if the other drivers don't.
Right. And as a pro, you always treat the other driver the way you'd like to be treated.
You bet. Next time, take a bus, you old bat.
What'd he say?
We'll have you going in just a minute, ma'am.
Oh, thank you for helping me. I'm sorry to cause all this trouble, and I must get that fuel gauge fixed properly.
Yeah, you're just about all set. Now, be sure to stop at the first filling station that you come to.
I will, and I'll fill it all the way up this time. Thanks again for your help.
Have a nice day, man.
Thank you.
Good manners on the road not only make good safety sense, it's also good public relations. Whenever you're behind the wheel, you represent your company and professional drivers everywhere. Little things like using your turn signals, easing up when another driver is passing, or holding back at a crowded intersection until you're sure you can get through without blocking traffic are common courtesies that pay off. Remember, The way that the public treats us depends on the way that we treat the other guy. Certain driving techniques come second nature to the professional because they're part of his all-around attitude. Things like being alert. Your eyes should be moving constantly from the road, the signs, to the mirrors, and back to the road. Good vision adds more time for avoiding trouble. Dirty windows or mirrors are dangerous because they limit your vision. You can't react to something you can't see.
When I see a ball or any other toy in the street, I know that a kid will probably come running after it, so I slow way down and prepare to stop.
Now you must never go in the street like that.
All it takes is a little patience and common sense.
Like the lady said, all it takes is a little patience and common sense, which is part of a professional attitude. It's the little things that, if ignored, can turn into big accidents. A pro knows that. Little things like planning your route before you leave.
Let's see, is that Justin Street? Or is that Tustin? God, I can't read this. Guess I'll find out when I get there.
Why let yourself get into that kind of a mess? Know where you're going and how to get there before you drive off.
The roads today are more complicated than ever. By planning ahead, I can chart a route that's safe and fuel efficient.
You have to be alert for truck routes, load restrictions, one-way streets, turn restrictions, and so on. The speed limit is for everyone, but the pro knows what speed is safe for particular weather, lighting, and road conditions.
Cut that a little close, but I made it. And Tustin Street just sort of snuck up there. Let's see now, where am I going?
It's jokers like that who give us all a bad name. He's always in a hurry, but he never seems to know where he's going. With that kind of an attitude, your job will be nothing but miserable.
The key to safe driving is space. Space means time. Time to react. Time to defend yourself against the unexpected.
The pro keeps a cushion of space around her vehicle. She uses the 2-second rule to maintain a safe distance between herself and the vehicle in front of her. When the vehicle ahead passes a fixed object, she starts counting. 1001, 1002, until she passes the same object. It's called the 2-second rule, but we're better off with 3 or 4 seconds because loaded trucks don't stop on a dime. And how do you protect yourself when someone cuts into your space shield? Just ease off the accelerator and restore the shield. Do the same thing to keep the space shield behind you. Easing off the accelerator slows you down, which forces a tailgater to slow down and also makes it easier for him to pass, which is the best way to get a dangerous driver out of your life. You know, driving a truck is no different from any other part of your life. When you feel a lot of tension or pressure, you tend to make mistakes and get into trouble. The pro has learned to take it all in stride. Why get your stomach all tied up in knots over a few minutes delay? Some things happen that you have no control over, things like traffic jams and detours. And even the best maintained vehicles have mechanical breakdowns sometimes. When you have to make an emergency stop, pull over on the shoulder as far as you can. Turn on the front and rear flashers as a warning to other drivers. Then set the parking brake and turn off the engine.
Well, I could curse a lot or jump up and down, but that wouldn't solve the problem. It's all part of the job.
Put out warning reflectors. First toward oncoming traffic, about 10 feet from your vehicle, and then another one 100 feet away. If you break down on a one-way road or a divided highway, the reflectors only need to be placed in the direction of approaching traffic. One at 10 feet, one at 100 feet, and another at 200 feet from your truck or van. And when all the warnings are set, what should the pro driver with the right attitude do?
While I'm waiting for help, I can use this time to check my load.
Right. Load should be checked at least once every 3 hours or every 150 miles. Get into the habit of giving the load a once-over whenever you stop for any reason.
Not Tustin Street. It must be Justin Street. Well, these guys get this stuff right. How am I supposed to keep a schedule if I don't know where I'm going?
Backing a truck or a van is something you don't want to do unless you absolutely have to. That guy is just asking for trouble.
Normally, I back into driveways so that I can re-enter traffic smoothly. I was trained to do a circle check before I ever back up my van. I just walk around the back and make sure it's clear. There are too many blind spots to depend on mirrors.
And if your vehicle doesn't have an automatic warning device, sound your horn just before you back up.
It's important to take time to check clearances before backing into a dock. You always check for overhangs and posts. And you always try and set up so that you can back in from the driver's side. You have to take it slow and easy.
Howdy, Mike.
Hey, Joe, can you guide me in?
Sure thing, kiddo.
The safest way to back in is to have a good guide behind you.
This is the kind of driving that I like to see. He takes the time to do it right, so he doesn't have to take more time to do it again. To the professional with the right attitude, all of these things become second nature.
Things like planning the route. The pros always know where they're going before they go. Safe drivers do pre-trip inspections, whether or not the law says they have to. A pro always takes the time to know the condition of his vehicle and to keep it looking good. He always checks the steering and the brakes within the first 50 feet of any trip. Courtesy and good manners are part of a professional driver's attitude.
Thanks again for all your trouble.
Well, have yourself a good day, man.
The safe driver knows the value of good vision and the need for total concentration. She keeps a 3-second cushion of space around her vehicle.
1001, 1002, 1003.
He knows how to place warning devices properly, and he always knows the condition of his load. A pro always does a circle check before backing up. He always checks overhangs and clearances before backing into a dock. If you put skid marks down, your right to call yourself a pro is questioned.
The real professional has learned to be patient, considerate, wary, and alert. By developing these attitudes, you'll have the discipline to keep safety your #1 priority.
Justin Street.
But the one thing I've noticed about unsafe drivers is it's never, ever their fault. What happened?
It's not my fault. No way. I didn't do anything wrong.
You see what I mean? You mean you got yourself in this pickle by just driving down the street and the trees came up and hit you?
Well, maybe I was going a little fast.
Oh, a little fast.
Maybe I can make this guy realize that even he can learn to be patient, considerate, wary, and alert. I hope so, for his sake and for ours.